Hi, my name is Sally Dayon Reinsing. I'm going to take just a few minutes to bring you up to speed on scholarly research and resources. Over the next few minutes, I will cover scholarly resources, popular sources, and the gray area. First, let's review our learning objectives. By the end of this video, you will be able to define scholarly research, identify scholarly sources and popular sources, and list at least 3 examples of acceptable resources. So let's jump in. Scholarly research is defined as the act of locating authoritative sources of information written by experts in their field. Basically, scholarly research is what you'll be doing, and scholarly sources is what you will be using. In addition to scholarly sources, you might hear peer-reviewed or peer-refereed. What this means is that the journal or the article is one in which a group of widely acknowledged experts in a field reviews the content for scholarly soundness and academic value. As you search, be aware that you can limit or filter your search results to peer-reviewed materials in many databases and some search engines. As you begin searching for sources, there's some key points you want to consider, like the author, the purpose of your study, publications and format of the article, relevance of the source to your research, the date of publication, and finally documentation, the references. Are there sources cited in your source? First, the author. Who is the author? What else has the author written? Are they known to have or represent a specific view? Next is purpose. Why was this source created? Is it responding to a specific research question? Is it intended to educate or persuade? Is the intended audience scholarly, or is it geared to a general audience? Next, publication and format. Was it published in a scholarly publication, for example, an academic journal, or was it self-published? Was it formally peer-reviewed? And does the publication sponsors hold a particular bias? Next, relevance. Is this source relevant to your research? Is the time period or the geographic region relevant to your research? Publication dates. When was the source published? At least half of CE sources must be published within the last 5 years. Then it must still be considered relevant to the field and standards of practice. References. Our documentation. Did the author cite their sources? Otherwise, how do we verify the reliability of their work? Before we move further, take a moment to select the correct definition of scholarly research. The correct answer is C. Resources don't have to be electronic and definitely should not be biased. Scholarly research is C, the act of locating authoritative sources of information written by experts in their field. Now we're going to discuss scholarly versus popular sources. Remember, some of the points to consider from earlier, author, purposes, format, you might recognize some of them here. If I were to break all of these words on the chart down to a picture for each, this is what I would see. The first is that coffee cup. To review scholarly work, you might need a big cup of coffee to get through all of that academic jargon. You've got to have it strong enough to hold you as you go digging through the lengthy, text-heavy abstracts and methodologies, and finally the results of the journal article. As for the bathtub, you can see the toilet peeking in the corner. It seems like the perfect relaxing spot for a general, easy-to-read, popular piece with a pretty graphic or two. And definitely no long list of sources to bulk up the page. Now that we've covered the difference between scholarly and popular resources, let's see if you can identify whether these sources are scholarly or popular. Let's start with USA Today. USA Today is a newspaper and therefore would be considered a popular source. Next, we have the New England Journal of Medicine. Is it scholarly or popular? Those of you who thought scholarly resource would be correct. The New England Journal of Medicine is authored by experts in their field. It's specific and in-depth research writing that you probably need a background in medicine to understand. Last one. The readily recognizable CNN News logo. Scholarly or popular? News logo was a hint. Since this is a news source, it would be considered a popular source. Well done. Next, let's cover the other sources that aren't really a scholarly resource, but they're more than a popular source. These other sources are acceptable to use, but they should be more limited in comparison to the number of scholarly sources you use. Gray literature. This is material and research published by government, business, outside of typical academic publishing channels. Examples include reports, dissertations, conference notes, technical notes, and even personal communication. As for government publications, they offer perspectives of the state, federal, and international levels on government proceedings. Examples include government and data statistics, census statistics, and laws and regulations. Tertiary resources provide a summary or interpretation of other sources. This can include dictionaries and encyclopedias and even textbooks. Trade literature reports news and trends in the field. It reviews products related to the industry and interviews with leaders in the field, often listing job opportunities. Examples include journals, websites, newsletters, and other sources aimed at professionals in a particular field. Take a moment to think about some of the other sources that we can use. See if you can come up with at least 3. If you thought of any of these, good job. Remember, the key takeaway here is that while these sources are acceptable to use, they should be limited in comparison to the number of scholarly sources you use. Here's my references. Thank you.